So hello everyone and welcome to this inking tutorial. So this is my Stardust illustration that I just finished a few days ago, and since I really take my time on this inking process, I figured out it would be nice to make a tutorial on how to ink. So right now I'm using my clean, well, not really clean sketch, but basically I just did a sketch on paper and I scan it, and then I just clean it quickly and then print it on the right size. Then I just put this on my Copic tracer, which is an A3 tracer by the two company actually, and then I laying over it my GNK paper to start the inking. So it depends on the project, but usually I don't really do the inking first because I like to have just some guidelines but not very precise lines, because when you do the inking first, you kind of have like limits when you color because you have to follow the lines. But it's a really great process if you want, especially if you want to have really precise line, but also if you plan on working in black and white, for example, or this is also the process that you will do if you do manga art and like mangaka stuff, like ink your manga. So right now I'm actually using a Triplus fineliner by staedtler. So this is in the shade dark gray, and I'm doing the basic lines. I'm just like going all over my sketch line and trying to have a really free motion. It's really taking practice and it's taking time. I think I spent about 1 hour on the inking, but you just get used to it after doing it multiple times. The best thing to do when you ink something, when you ink a drawing, is to have a precise sketch. But the most important thing is to be confident when you do the line. If you're hesitating, if you're like shaking and your hands is not confident enough, that's when you're going to mess up. You have to go for it. Just like just before I do the line, I just try to find like I try to select the line that I want on the sketch and quickly do the motion with my hand. And when I just feel the motion, I just go straight to it with the lines and with the liner. Because if I hesitate, I found that if I like hesitate when I do this, it is where I'm going to mess up and the lines will not be perfect. And I will have to go all over again. And when you like, if you stop in the middle of the line, like before you connect it with another part of the drawing. So if, for example, on the top of the head, if I just stopped before I connected to the actual ponytail, if I stop in the middle, you will see like where it ends and where I just start again, because this is just not a clean one stroke, you know. And so this is really important. So I think if you lack of confidence when you ink something, I recommend using like a really light gray or a light beige and a really fine liner, because if you use a really fine liner, if you mess up, it's okay, because you're going to be able to fix it after when we work on like creating the dynamic. So there's like two big steps when I ink. I do the basic lines, so just like what I'm doing right now, I'm following every part of the drawing, trying to define everything, but like quickly, just to have the basics clean lines. And when this step is finished, I will try to work on the dynamic and adding like some, how can I explain that? Like I'm adding some bigger lines, some smaller lines, and this is just going to create depth in the drawing. And you know that the inking is like nice if you already think, okay, this illustration can stay at this stage because I think this like stands out quite nice and the lines are really dynamic. And you know, when I created this artwork, and when you create something, you have to think of the overall dynamic And if you can feel like the motion through the lines, it's like it's the best. Like you know that you have achieved something nice, and you know that it's going to be nice. So yeah, right now I'm focusing on the face, and this is the trickiest part, and this is really hard when you ink something because you can't like the sketch is nice, but the sketch is not really precise. So you have to at some point you have to select like the lines that you will draw, and if you don't select the nice lines, you can completely change the face, and you can completely change how it like how she looks and how the expression is, and how like the features on the face are really just because like real people don't have lines, so it's like focusing on uh, the essential parts of a face. So it is really tricky. This is why I really recommend. Right now I actually did a mistake because I started to line the lips, which is a really big mistake. So I shouldn't be lining the lips, but if you lack of confidence again and you don't want to mess up, I recommend to have a very clean sketch of the face before and try to do the outlines with a really light color, maybe a beige or like a medium brown, and a really fine liners, because if you mess up and you don't follow exactly the lines and you feel like it's not really giving justice to the face that you created before, um, you can still fix it. So this is really nice. So this is the final stage, the final final stage of the first step. So these are like the basic lines. Now I just removed everything. I removed my sketch, and I work directly with direct light. And now I'm using the same pen. I'm using also the dark gray because I don't want to use black. Um, and I'm trying to work on the dynamic. So I'm adding thicker lines and kind of like work, when mangaka works with like a pen nib and an ink, you're trying to um, create depth. At some parts they are like smaller, some parts are thicker, and this is what we call in French les pleins et déliés. I will just try to I will put a box somewhere so you can see the name in English, because I actually don't know how to call this technique in English, but this is you see the difference between the part that I just have dynamic lines and the parts under them, like on the bottom of the drawing. You can see the difference because there's not as depth as the upper part. And when I do that, it's also very tricky to find at what level you have to stop adding more lines and adding depth and adding thicker thicker spots. For example, on the stars, I really did a mistake here because I shouldn't have basically outlined them. But when you just work on when you work on computer, you can always fix it. But when you work on paper, you just have to deal with it. So yeah, I just deal with it. Right now, I'm going to add depth to really. This is making the character pop. Really pop out of the drawing. Basically, when you have this and you have bigger lines on the outline, some smaller lines and slimmer lines, this is really going to make the difference. You will see this right away, when you do half of the drawing and you just compare the one that has no dynamic lines and the one that has dynamic lines, and you really see the drawing is just popping out of the picture. And it gets it you have to practice because quite often in my previous artworks I just did the mistake and I had too much lines, and sometimes I don't have enough lines, and so it is really a judgment call, and you have to really take your time. Usually I just feel lazy and not patient enough, and I just do this too quickly, and that's when I mess up. You have to take your time, because if you succeed on your inking process, the coloring process is going to be way much easier. And yeah, so basically I just think it's a really nice practice, And if you don't like to have like outlines and thick outlines on your drawing, it's okay. You can just like do as I told you. You take a really light beige or a light gray and you just do the basic lines, and then when you finished your coloring, you can then work on the dynamic and maybe use a color liners to do it, because it's perfectly fine. You can do this with color liners. You just have to create dynamic in each color for each part of the drawings. So yeah, I think that's it for like some tips and how to create an inking. Basically, you can use any kind of pens. You can use a brush if you have. This is really hard to work with a brush, but I used to use a lot of Copic multiliners, but they kind of die now. They are kind of dead now, so I work with my staedtler Triplus fineliners because they don't bleed at all and they are really cheaper than the Copic multiliners, so this is what I just use that. And also because I don't want to use black, I found out that it just bleeds more, and I really like to use dark gray or light gray. And sometimes I use also some beige or medium brown. I know there's like some colored liners, SP colors, but they are really expensive. So I just, you can. I tried a lot of different liners, and you don't have to get the Copic multiliners because there is plenty of other brands that are completely nice and they work really well and they don't bleed. Of course, they like bleed slightly a little more than the Copic multiliners, but to be quite honest, I one time, and I think it happens, I don't know, it happened maybe 2 or 3 times, I actually do the inking with Copic multiliners, and it bled, and so it was bleeding when I used Copic markers. I think also you have to figure out this when you select a liners, try them on different papers, because I'm serious, this is 50% of the job. If you have Copic multiliners, they may bleed on some paper, and they maybe like they work really well on Copic bleed proof like on layered paper. But yeah, if you don't use the right paper, you can maybe like use a different kind of brand. You can change the brand of the paper, you can change the brand of the liners, and some liners will work on some papers and some papers will not work. So what is that? Yeah, that's what I want to say. Here I'm using the JNK Design Pure Luxury Cardstock. This is the paper that I've used in many illustrations, and this is one of the best Copic like. This is not exactly made for Copic markers. This is just a scrapbooking paper, but I found out that they work. It's working really well with Copic markers, and I never it never bled. Basically never had trouble when I work with the liners first. So I think it really depends on the paper. So you don't have to get really expensive paper. You don't have to get the Copic multiliners. If you have them, it's nice because they have really different sizes. They come in a really small. So if you have small illustration, you can use them. Sometimes it's kind of tricky for me to work with my staedtler liners because they're kind of big nibs. So this is what I just do right now to precise on the lashes. I'm just changing and I'm using the Faber-Castell Pitt artist pen because they work like in the extra small size. So, and I'm also trying to work a bit with my Copic multiliners. But yeah, you don't have to really get them unless you really want the sizes. So yeah, I think that's. So yes, this tutorial is finished. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I see you very soon. Bye bye.